Um, Hi, folks. Good morning. Welcome, and thanks for joining us for this info session about the Ontario Agri-Food Research Initiative, or OAFRI, which I'll use from here on to describe it. My name is Braden. I'm the manager of the Grow Ontario Accelerator Hub for Bioenterprise. You'll see my colleague Alexis is here as well. Alexis is the director of programs for Bioenterprise, and I'm going to give you a bit of a quick overview of Bioenterprise as a whole, and then Alexis will run through the OAFRI program details. Alexis, if you could click the slide over for me, please.
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. We'll get this call wrapped up within the hour. As we go through here, if you have any questions that you'd like answered, please put them in the chat. I'll go through the chat as Alexis is speaking and collect all the questions and really relay them through during the answer period. Don't feel like you have to wait and hold on to those questions. Just go ahead and fire them into the chat as they come up. If you could click that slide over, please, Alexis. Cool. So as I mentioned, my name is Braden. I manage the Grow Ontario Accelerator Hub for Bioenterprise, and Bioenterprise is Canada's national agri-tech and agri-food accelerator. We deliver a commercialization model that provides continuous funding programs as well as acceleration services to entrepreneurs and businesses in the agri-food sector, and that's across the country, from coast to coast. Our head office is in Guelph, but we have satellite offices in 5 or 6 provinces as well. We do this through a split mandate model, and it kind of focuses on 2 things: commercialization assistance and then capacity building within the industry. So to help entrepreneurs commercialize new technologies, services, products, we provide mentorship and coaching, as well as access to funding programs like this one that we'll talk about today. And to build capacity across the industry, we operate what we call the engine, which is a collection of innovators, service providers, advisors, partners, all working together to provide that kind of industry-specific knowledge and expertise, access to international trade, global partnerships, and just about everything in between. Alexis, next slide, please. Generally speaking, our approach at Bioenterprise is to do our best to foster collaboration and connectivity across the entire agri-food sector, as well to build connections and increase capacity in the sector by introducing new innovations and technologies, and also to streamline commercialization, collaboration, and scale up by helping companies connect, innovate, and grow. The bottom line here is we want to do our best to help Canada's agri-food innovators to develop their technologies and bring them to market as quickly and as effectively as possible. And to do that, we've got a great team of experienced agri-food entrepreneurs and executives, along with an extensive partner and service provider network in place to provide mentorship and guidance to these agri-food entrepreneurs in Canada. And I'll talk a little bit about them here. So the Bioenterprise team is made up of a core staff to develop and manage the programs and internal operations, working alongside a broader group of experienced specialists. And that includes over 20 now, I think 22 innovation advisors from across the country. These folks work directly with our member companies to help them bring their technologies to the market. We also have a number of advisory committees, and these committees work not only with us as an organization to help guide us, but also with our member companies. And a network that I think I mentioned of more than 100 partner organizations, and these are folks who are committed to providing that sector-specific services and to accelerate the growth of agri-food businesses across Canada. I hope that gives you a little bit of background about the organization, and thanks for taking a few minutes to learn more about Bioenterprise Canada. I'm going to hand it off to Alexis, who's going to dive into the OAFRI call for applications. And the last thing I want to say, quick reminder: as your questions come up, just throw them into the chat, and we'll grab them and get them answered as soon as Alexis wraps up her presentation.
Perfect. Thanks, Braden. Okay, so into OAFRI, there are 4 streams being delivered. With that said, the first 3 are being delivered specifically by OMAFA, so the Applied Research Stream, Pilot and Demo, and Knowledge Translation and Transfer Stream. The first 2 offer up to $150,000 per project, and the last one offers $50,000 per project. As mentioned, these are delivered through OMAFA, and they did just open for intake yesterday. They will be hosting a separate virtual town hall event on October 29th, and you can register using a link through their webpage. The OAFRI commercialization stream is delivered solely through BioEnterprise, so we will be accepting all proposals and are currently doing so. There are two different project types you can apply for. The first one is a project type A market validation, where you can be funded up to $30,000 per project. And the second one is a project type B product development, where you can be funded anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 per project. And if you have any questions on this or looking for more information, I would like to direct you to our webpage. In this stream, we're looking for the most innovative Ontario-based agri-food and agri-tech organizations who are ready to transform their ideas into market-ready products and services. So the objectives of this stream in particular are to conduct activities that enable and support the agriculture, agri-food, and agri-based products sector through market validation and product development, as well as foster economic development of the sector, ensure protection and assurance in the sector, and provide stewardship of Ontario's capacity to produce food. Here's a quick overview of the timeline. So we did open for intake on October 2nd, 2024, and we are actively accepting proposals. You can submit a proposal until December 4th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. EST. All proposals must be submitted through our proposal link, which I will go over momentarily. And we do not accept email, fax, in-person, or mail applications. They must be received by this deadline through the proposal form link. All applicants, regardless of whether you've been awarded or declined, will be notified of your funding status by or during the spring 2025, and projects can begin no earlier than April 1st, 2025. All projects must be completed by September 30th, 2026. In terms of applicant eligibility, so this program or initiative, is ran in partnership with OMAFA. So with that being said, there's a strong Ontario focus. So eligible applicants must be located in Ontario, or you must have a significant presence in Ontario. And what we mean by this is a plant operation, an office, or a sales office with a minimum of 5 employees in Ontario. This will be assessed on a case-by-case basis, but just our rule of thumb. You must have all project activities occurring in Ontario, with all project costs incurred in Ontario, and all project partners and service providers located in Ontario. You must be operating in the agriculture, agri-food, and agri-based product sectors. You must have a product, technology, or service that is unique to Ontario. And given the commercialization nature of this initiative in particular, you must own the technology, product, or service that is being commercialized as a result of the project. And finally, you have to have a project that addresses at least one of the OMAFA key research priority areas and the initiative objectives. So we've listed the key research priority areas here. There's food safety, animal health and welfare, plant health and protection, soil health, water quality and quantity, sustainable production systems, productive land capacity, competitive production systems, innovative products and product improvements, and finally, trade market and targeted sector growth opportunities. For more information on these, they can be found in pages 4 to 5 of the Call for Proposals document, which is on our webpage. In terms of eligible project types, there are 2 project types that can be awarded through this stream specifically. The first one is a bit of an earlier stage one. It's a project type A market validation grant, where we're looking to conduct market research to determine the size and quality of a market opportunity of a new and promising technology, product, or service. So the funding available through this stream is up to $30,000 per project. The second project stream is a project type B product development grant. So this is where we're creating prototypes, performing field trials, ultimately removing any barriers to market launch or private sector adoption. So these are more of the later stage projects where funding available for these ones is between $50,000 and $150,000 per project. A note here that all market validation efforts should be completed by the time you are applying for a product development grant. There should be no market validation activities included in your product development project. And if you're wondering what these activities are, please refer to our call for proposals as we outline the eligible activities. Another thing to note is that this is a 100% non-repayable funding initiative. So there's no cost share requirement to the applicant. However, funding is released on a reimbursement basis. So you're responsible for fronting those costs and paying for them before you will be reimbursed. Additionally, since it's a 100% funding initiative, stacking of government funds is not allowed on activities that are reimbursed through OAFRI. So just ensure that you have the cost share requirements there. And finally, applicants are eligible to submit more than one proposal if you have multiple distinct projects, but due to the competitive nature of the initiative, only one project per round per organization will be awarded. In terms of project details, your project can be up to 18 months in length and should start no earlier than April 1st, 2025. Your project must be completed by September 30th, 2026, and your final report will be due within a month later by October 31st, 2026. Again, this is a very Ontario-centric initiative, and all activities must take place in Ontario. In terms of eligible project costs, these are outlined in our call for proposals, but they must be directly related to the intent of the project, reasonable and required to carry out the project, incremental to the cost of doing business, and directly connected to the project milestone plan. So examples of these include internal employee labor, consulting and professional service provider fees, equipment, whether it's leased or purchased, consumables, travel, or indirect costs. Note that the costs, the example costs here with an asterisk beside them do have caps associated with them, and these are all outlined again in the call for proposals. And again, another reminder that all costs must be incurred in Ontario. In terms of how to apply, the proposal process is a one-phased full proposal consisting of an OAFRI proposal form. So this is an online form template that is linked on our webpage. A project milestone plan. This is a Word template that you will fill out, and a budget workbook, which is an Excel template that you need to fill out. Those three are all required to submit a proposal, and you're welcome to submit supporting documentation as well. This is optional, but it is recommended given the competitive nature of this initiative. So examples of supporting documentation could be letters of support from a service provider or an industry adopter, a product or technology spec sheet, really anything that will help us better understand your product and technology or your project. And these can all be found under the tools and templates section on our webpage. So this is on the bottom right-hand side, I believe, if you scroll down. Proposals must be submitted through this OAFRI proposal form, which is linked on our webpage. And again, we will not be accepting email, mail, in-person, or fax submissions. And proposals must be received by the submission deadline to be considered for funding. This is what when you click on the proposal link on our webpage, this is the page it will bring you to. So there are a few different drop downs here. Description and rules, this is kind of an overview of what the OAFRI commercialization stream and just some general instructions for submitting a proposal. You'll also see in the downloads dropdown, that's where you can again find the call for proposals, which we highly suggest referring to while completing all of your proposal forms. The project milestone plan and the budget workbook. So both of those templates are also available through this platform. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see that's where you can either create an account or log back in to finish working on your proposal. So like I said, you can create a new account here. It's fairly easy, or you can log into your existing account. And the nice thing about this is that it does save your progress as you go. So once you create an account, make sure that you're logging in and not creating a separate account. In terms of project milestone plan, so this is a screenshot of what it looks like. It's a simple Word template that you will add in all of your project activities so that we can get an idea for the full scope of your project. You can include as many activities as needed and be sure that these activities are taking place between the eligible project timeline. The other document that is required is the budget workbook. This is an Excel template, so please make sure that you're filling out the correct tab based on which project you're applying for. So if you're applying for project type A, market validation, please select that tab, and vice versa if project type B. You will correlate the activity names to the project milestone plan, so that document that I just showed. You will then select from the drop-down list an activity type, and then those last two columns on the right side, you'll break up the total activity costs and what you would like OAFRI to contribute. So please make sure you are filling out both of those columns when you're completing this document. In terms of submitting your proposal, so these are more screenshots from that proposal link. As I said, you can save and log out and continue your progress later, so long as you are submitting your proposal by that deadline on December 4th at 11:59 p.m. You can also attach all of your documents here as well. So we have everything listed under the supporting documents, but the only two that are required is the budget workbook and the project milestone plan. In terms of questions, we highly suggest you visit our webpage first and our call for proposals, as that outlines everything that I went over, but in much more detail. For project-specific questions, we will not be answering those today, but we do encourage you to email us at submissions@bioenterprise.ca, and we'd be happy to set up a call and discuss your project in detail. Alternatively, you can reach out to me directly at alexis.dempsey@bioenterprise.ca. And I will pass it back over to Braden for the Q&A session.
Cool. Looks like there's 12 or 14, a couple sort of in similar categories. So in no particular order, an easy one first. Are we going to send a recording of this webinar out to attendees?
Yeah, so you should receive that within the next week. Once we download the recording and get it up on our webpage, we'll be sending out the direct link to all attendees.
Awesome. A couple about multiple applications. So can a company apply for each stream of this program?
Yes, you can. Please note that you can be awarded a maximum of, per technology, one project type A and one project type B project. You are welcome to submit to both streams, but only one project will be funded per intake round.
Got it. How does or does this at all impact shred and clean tech tax credits? And that maybe isn't a question for us, but if you have any insight there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how that impacts those. With that being said, you couldn't use any of that on cost you're submitting to OAFRI. So let's say, for example, part of your OAFRI project is, or let's say you're requesting $150,000 from OAFRI. You couldn't use any of those towards that $150,000 that is being reimbursed through OAFRI, but you could use them towards any project costs that go above and beyond that $150,000.
Yep. Um, uh, Also, I might just add there, if you have a financial services provider you're working with for those things, maybe worth just asking them how a grant like this might affect that on the tax side of things. Um, are 5 employees required for the market validation stream?
And on it's not so much a requirement of how many employees, it's a requirement of your project location. So that came into play. If you are headquartered outside of Ontario, you would need to have some sort of plant operation or sales office with a minimum of 5 employees in Ontario. But if you are a sole proprietorship in Ontario, you don't require a minimum number of employees per se.
Are the OAFRI research priorities ranked in any way in terms of importance?
No, that's a great question. There's no ranking there. Just need to be addressing at least one.
Yeah. A couple questions around Ontario. When you say all project costs need to be incurred in Ontario, you mean all project costs need to be incurred in Ontario?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have seen some projects come through that perhaps a technology can only be sourced from overseas or something. It's not available in Canada, it's not available in Ontario. So if that's the case, please include that justification in your proposal so we can understand why there might be an outside of Ontario costs. But ultimately, we would want to see all project costs being incurred in Ontario.
Um, Unique to Ontario. Can we expand on that a little bit around what we mean when we say that technology needs to be unique to Ontario?
Yeah, so this is something we really build out in the proposal form. Really, we're looking for a technology service or product that either isn't available on the market, or if it is, how are you doing it differently from your competitors, and ultimately serving your clientele differently. So just, excuse me, outlining those different things in your proposal. We ask about kind of the market that your target market, the competitors, what you're doing differently. So if you're able to really distinguish how your technology or product or service is different from something existing on the market, that's how we ultimately determine the uniqueness of a technology.
Okay. I want to go back to the type A and type B applications question. There's a one more there. For clarity, can a company be awarded one project A and one project B in the same intake? And I believe the answer is no.
Yeah, sorry, that was I did phrase that really strangely how I first answered it. So no, you cannot be awarded for both in one intake round. But you could be, for example, awarded a project type A in this intake round, and then in the next intake round, awarded a project type B pending that first project is completed. So for each technology, an applicant can be awarded a maximum of one project type A and one project type B over the 5-year course of the initiative, but only one project can be funded per intake round.
Okay. On that same vein, can can a company who was successful in a previous round of OAFRI apply again for the same stream of funding?
Okay, so there's a few things to consider here. They can. Their first project would have to be completed, and we would have to have all of their, oh gosh, what's the word? All of their reports, sorry, in. And then the other thing to consider is, sorry, could you repeat the question? I got distracted by.
If a company was successful in receiving OAFRI funding in one stream, can they apply again
Oh,
during this intake, either for that same stream or for the other stream?
yes. So if they are applying in the same stream, it would have to be with a new technology and distinct activities and project costs. So they couldn't apply, let's say they did a project type B for one technology in the past, they couldn't then apply again with that same technology for another project type B project.
And we'll check.
Yeah.
Um, a question about supporting documents. I think you sort of covered this. Do we need to include any supporting documents like financials and support letters? I think support letters are always helpful. What about financials from previous years?
Yeah, that's a great question. Financial documents are not required within your proposal submission, but with that being said, you will be conditionally approved on your financials. So at that point, we would address that. Just because it is a reimbursement-based initiative, we want to make sure that you have the money in place to front those costs before you reimburse the funding.
Got it. Um, do we have a pool of market research vendors that applicants would choose from, or are they sourcing these vendors on their own?
We don't have a pool. You would be responsible for sourcing them by yourself. With that said, you could reach out to submissions@bioenterprise.ca if you're looking for vendors, and we can take a look at our partners and see if any are a good match for you.
Yep. If someone is also applying to Agri-Innovate, can they still apply to OAFRI?
I'm not entirely sure on that one. If you could send an email to submissions@bioenterprise, I will follow up specifically with OMAFA and get an answer to you.
probably fits under that total project cap
Hmm.
conversation. Um, how about pre-revenue companies? Can pre-revenue companies apply?
Yes, they can.
Would have to demonstrate the ability to front the costs of the project, though.
Yeah, so there's no revenue requirements for this initiative, but you would still have to prove that you have the financials to then front all the costs before reimbursement.
Can the total project cost exceed the available maximum funding?
Yes, and we actually do encourage you to include the total project cost in your budget workbook. So like I said, it's broken down in column by I think activity cost and then the amount that you would like OAFRI to cover. So if you could fill in the whole project amount so that we can see the full scope of your project for reviewers, that's probably the best way to go about it. So it is okay if it goes over that $150,000. Just make sure that you clearly outline what you would like OAFRI to be covering up to that $150,000 max.
Is there any relevance to the order of the submissions? Are they reviewed in order of being received? Are they all reviewed at once? How are we doing that?
Yeah, so it's a two-phase review process, but they are all reviewed. There's no order. They all get reviewed, and scored accordingly.
Thanks. Um, if the technology is unique to Ontario, but perhaps available in other countries, is that something that would be considered fundable?
Yeah, you could be bringing that new technology to Ontario, and it could be unique to our Ontario market, so that would still be eligible.
Um, we mentioned the project can't start before April 1st, 2025. Um, can we elaborate on that? Could certain activities already be in progress? Well, the application is for new activities. I'm not entirely sure that I understand that question. Basically, I think what we're getting at there is we can't fund any activities that are completed before April 1st, 2025, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So if a project is underway, that's okay, but we wouldn't be funding anything before that April
Yeah.
1st date.
So the answer to the question, the way I read it, is yes, activities can already be in progress. The application is for new activities after April 1, 2025, and we will not fund retroactively before April 1, 2025.
Correct.
Cool. Um, Another question about the cost being incurred in Ontario. Can the materials be manufactured overseas but sold by Ontario suppliers? I don't see any reason why that's not yes. If the
Yeah.
dollars are being spent in Ontario.
Yeah. That should be okay.
Yeah.
I'm if I might get them to email submissions as well, just to double check that one.
Okay. Um, how many intakes per year?
Oh, great question. So we are targeting 3 to 4 over the 5-year initiative. We've done one last year, we're doing one this year, and we're targeting another 1 to 2 in the next 2 years. So about one a year.
About 1 year. Is a formal market research study mandatory to apply for project type 3 funding?
Uh, it's not required, so to speak, but we wouldn't want to see any of those activities included in your product development project, as they'd be ineligible.
Right. I think we already answered this one. Yes, a company can apply to both streams, but you would only be funded for one per intake. Um, if you apply for project A and B and are awarded both, would you be able to prioritize project B or project A? You wouldn't be awarded both, so that's not uh,
Yeah.
sort of that decision wouldn't be something to worry about. Um, an example of support letters. What do we mean when we say support letters?
Yeah, so just a letter of support from any partners or industry adopters really saying that they believe in the technology or that they're ready to adopt the technology when it's available on the market. Um, yeah.
How does someone who is pre-revenue uh, demonstrate costs? I think what's meant there is the ability to fund the costs of the project.
Oh, well, this would be assessed on a case by case basis. It could be proof of a loan agreement. Yeah, this would have to be something that we would then bring our,
Bank statements
yeah.
showing available cash. Yep. Um, if the project is approved, it will be 100% reimbursed. Yes, assuming the costs are eligible and within the budget cap of the program.
Yes.
How many projects are accepted per round?
We don't have a target number, so to speak. It really is based on the kind of the how strong the proposals are and how much they're requesting. So there's no set target, but in the past it's been around 20% have been accepted.
If a business is 100% Ontario based, can a project centered around a main input that is sourced from outside of Ontario be eligible? I think it depends where the reimbursed dollars are being spent.
Yeah, I think that would be a case by case basis, and I would again suggest that they reach out via email to discuss. I think we need a bit more information on that.
If a technology can produce multiple products, can the company apply for type A for one product and type B for the second product? Yes, but you'll only be funded for one of the two in one round.
Exactly.
Does an applicant need to demonstrate matched available funds? Um, Not necessarily matching, but you need to demonstrate that you can front the costs of the project because we're reimbursing it, not paying for it up front.
Exactly. And this would be at the conditional approval time, so not at the time of application.
Okay. Can we buy materials from overseas vendors, but the materials go through R&D in Ontario? Is this an eligible cost? I think any cost that has dollars leaving Ontario likely isn't an eligible cost, except in some specific circumstances.
Yeah, you would have to include strong justification for that in your proposal why you're
Yeah.
sourced from overseas versus Ontario or Canada.
I think the R&D happening in Ontario, that would be an eligible cost, but
Yeah.
procuring materials from overseas in all likelihood wouldn't be.
No, there would have to be strong
Strong
justification.
justification. Yeah.
Yeah.
What determines the amount of funding for a project?
We go based off of what is requested in the proposal. So we kind of trust the applicant's judgment on that, that they know what they need and where in their budget workbook. So we trust that they've figured it out on their end. So really the amount you're requesting.
And folks, please make sure if you request an amount, the budget workbook matches up because oftentimes that's not the case, and it all needs to make sense when it comes in for review. Um, if a company received funding in a previous round to develop a product in one use case, can it still receive funding to develop their technology further to be used in a different use case?
I think we would have to have a meeting. I think we need a bit more information on that to determine eligibility. Because typically we would want to see a distinct new technology and project with new project costs. Um, yeah, I would suggest reaching out via email.
Um, this one's interesting. So, if someone applies for a $150,000 product development uh, project, how are we going to determine if that company has the funds to front that? Do we look for $150,000 cash in the bank, or are we looking for sales revenues or loan agreements to show that that capital will become available?
That's a great question. I would actually have to go back to our finance team to determine how they want to see that.
Okay. Um, Laura, maybe send us an email on that question that
Mhm.
you asked so that we remember to loop back with you there. Some clarification. So there are no matching funds required for the project. So as an example, if the total project cost was 100,000, that company could request 100,000 in funding without an additional cash contribution from the company.
Correct.
Yes. But you do have to demonstrate that you can fund it upfront.
Exactly.
Are the salaries of founders and employees considered eligible costs?
Salaries of founders in any C-suite is ineligible. Salaries for internal labor is eligible beyond that.
The funding call lists 9 criteria. Are they all equally weighted? I assume that's the priority sectors.
Yeah, they're equally weighted. It's just that your project would have to address one of them.
Yeah.
And then you have to explain in the proposal workbook how exactly you're addressing them. But they all, there's no, one isn't favored over the other.
Oh, there's a little more context there. The person asking the question is referring to the merit criteria.
I don't believe so.
I think it's likely that all we're not going to weigh any one heavier than the other. It's just a
No,
matter of having to touch on it to be eligible in the first place.
exactly.
If a business extends the hours of a part-time existing employee, is it considered a new hire and would it be reimbursed at 100%?
If you are creating a new full-time job for a current part-time employee, specifically for the project that you're proposing, it could be eligible, but that could not come into effect before April 1st, 2025. So before the project
Right.
starts.
Okay. Uh, is the salary for existing scientists and engineers eligible for a Type B project, or is it capped at 15% for existing employees?
It would be eligible. It would still be capped at that 15% because it is an existing position, but those scientists and engineers, the time you are claiming has to be directly attributable towards the project that you're proposing. So it can't just be their time working for you, it has to be their time on the project. And that's the same with the past question.
Yeah.
Any labor that you are claiming as part of your project, it has to be labor that is directly attributable towards your project.
Yeah. So if you had an employee who was, um, 50% working on the project and 50% working on something else, that employee is not eligible for 100% reimbursement.
Correct. They'd only be eligible for the time they've spent, so the 50% on the project.
A question about a business from Newfoundland that's working towards acquiring a business in Ottawa, completing research for new plant-based therapeutics using tech and processes not currently used in Canada. Would this apply? I think the business that's located in Ottawa would have to be the applicant. The Newfoundland-based business would not be eligible.
Correct. Also, if they are completing research, they might be a better fit for one of OMAFA's streams.
Yeah.
Because any lab analysis and research is not eligible through the commercialization stream.
Okay. Back to the C-suite labor, specific to early stage companies. The founders and C-suite are doing a lot of the internal labor. We fund no salaries or labor by owners.
Correct. So owners, founders, and C-suite, any board members, um, is not eligible for reimbursement.
Okay. What else do I see here? Can we share the link to the OMAFA um, streams that you just mentioned there? Do we have it handy? I
Mhm.
don't. Whoever's asked that question, I'm just gonna ask you to send us an email. I'll put my email there and we'll get that link to you.
I have the link for their webpage here. I can put it in the chat to everyone.
Okay.
Um, and this is just to their general OAFRI, so you'll have to do a bit more digging.
Is there anything that made the round one recipients application stand out and receive funding? Can we talk about anything there?
Um, Yeah, I don't know. We had two different review committees reviewing those. So just kind of the feasibility of the project, the technical merit of the projects. They had all eligible costs, all incurred in Ontario, everything kind of aligned in their proposals. So kind of like you mentioned before, Braden, if you're mentioning one budget somewhere and another budget in the budget workbook, it really confuses the external and internal
Yeah,
reviews as to what are you requesting, what are you doing with the money. So really crossing your T's and dotting your I's on your proposals. Um, but yeah, beyond that, it really just came down to the competitiveness of the initiative and who ultimately had the strongest projects.
yeah. I can add a little bit of color to that. I find myself on a lot of these review panels for bioenterprise and for other organizations as well. Um, just having a fully complete application that's well laid out and logical puts you ahead of a lot of applications.
Mhm.
Um, complete it in a logical manner. Make sure you read what eligible costs are and what ineligible costs are. Everything that you need to put together a solid application is there for you. Um, spend the time to really complete it and complete it in a logical way, and I think that'll go a long way to help you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions while you're completing it, please reach out to submissions. We're here to make the process easier for you. So
Yeah,
we're happy to clarify wherever needed.
yeah. Um, would laboratory analysis for regulatory approvals be eligible for the commercialization stream? So not testing to develop a product, but testing to meet regulatory standards.
I believe that would be, but maybe if you could send me an email just to learn a bit more about that. I don't want to lead you astray on that.
The that chat there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Um, I think that's all of them. If I missed anybody's questions, I was trying to do my best to catch them as they came through. Oh, here we go. Here's one. If research has been done outside of Canada, but now wish to do market research in Ontario, would it be best to apply for market research or product development? I guess that sort of depends on how far the product has been developed and if there's room to continue developing the product in Ontario.
Yeah, if you're doing market, so I would look at our call for proposals. We've outlined their eligible activities under a market validation and a product development project. I would refer to that and see which one better aligns with where you're currently at. Based off that question, I would suggest market research. But yeah.
Here's an interesting question around existing employees. If someone has a successful application, I assume that means uh, they've been notified that the application is going to be funded. And they hire someone before April 1st, but after the submission, does that employee count in the 15% existing employee category, or does the hire have to happen after April 1st?
It would have to happen after April 1st, so it would have to be a new hire at the beginning of the project.
Would palatability studies with animals be considered market validation?
I am not entirely sure. I'm going to have to reach out to OMAFRA on this one. So if you could send me an email and I will get back to you with a firm answer.
To chat as well. Right. That's the end of the current list. If anybody has any further questions, please fire them into the Q&A tab now. Someone's just asking for our email. I will send that. Cool. Um, how are submissions reviewed in order of received or as a batch? They'll be done as a batch.
Correct, yeah.
They go to the external panel in a group.
Yeah, so all submissions are reviewed after that deadline date. It's not a rolling intake or anything. We accept submissions up until December 4th, and then we begin our review processes, and everything is reviewed all together.
Okay. Someone has licensing rights for a technology for Canada. Presume this means the technology wasn't developed by the company, but they have purchased the licensing rights or have some sort of agreement to them. Would I be eligible? I imagine for the market validation. Yes, likely.
Again, I would suggest they reach out to submissions. For all project related questions, I highly recommend just reaching out to submissions. I just need a bit more details on a lot of these.
And that's submissions at bioenterprise.ca.
Correct, yeah.
All right. Last call. Any more questions, please put them in the Q&A tab. Seeing none, Alexis.
Awesome. Okay, well, I look forward to responding to everyone's emails. And thank you again for joining our info session today. I hope it was helpful for everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.